Welcome to the DigiOp online video tutorial on how to design an interrogation room scenario. We will be utilizing a toggle switch and an Infinius EIDC32 door controller with a reader to trigger alarm recording with audio in DigiOp. This tutorial will show you how to wire the trigger to the I/O board, configure and wire a LaRue microphone to the DigiOp server, and how to configure the software settings. Let's begin with wiring the Infinius EIDC32 to trigger alarm recording on a valid card swipe. We will run a jumper cable from the trigger of the toggle switch, which you'll see in just a moment, to the relay of the door controller. Furthermore, we have placed a custom door template on the door controller to toggle its state based off of a valid card swipe. Now let's take a look at the toggle switch. The toggle switch that we're using requires 12 volts in to power the LEDs. If you're using a 12 volt mic instead of LaRue like we're doing in our example, you'll utilize the 12 volt out as shown in this image. The trigger on this toggle switch is going to be wired to input 1 on the DigiOp I/O board. For this example, we will run the Infinius door controller in parallel with the toggle switch. The LaRue mic will be wired to the LaRue audio base station, and it requires 3 wires. Make sure that your cable orientation matches on both ends. Once you verified that the cable orientation matches, wire an RCA cable from the output on the LaRue audio base station to the audio card dongle labeled input 1 of 9. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to wire up the audio board and the I/O board. Although your audio and I/O boards are pre-wired when you order them, we will walk you through how to properly wire everything for troubleshooting purposes. The audio board manages inputs in banks of 4 channels, starting with 1 through 4 at the bottom of the card. This will wire to the associated connector of the capture card. The I/O board can be used for either inputs or outputs, and these are appropriately wired to the gray and black banks on the left-hand side. They are numbered 1 through 4, moving from the top to bottom. The outputs have relays next to them as seen in the image. Since we're using inputs on the I/O board, we're going to wire the ribbon cable to the bottom connector, as shown in the image. This ribbon cable will wire to the capture card, allowing the capture card to manage the inputs and outputs. Also, make sure that the jumper switches are moved to the far right, or what's labeled as relay on the board. Once everything has been internally wired properly, wire the trigger from the toggle switch to input 1 and ground on the I/O board. Okay, so now we're going to configure the software settings in DigiOp Control. From here, you should be able to flip the toggle switch and/or swipe a card, and that's going to trigger an input 1 active event in the DigiOp database. Once that first event happens, the input will be visible in Control and in Connect, both. Also, your inputs are going to be listed below recorder events under the data server icon. In addition to that, you're also going to notice a blue folder icon under your data server. This is a built-in rule created by DigiOp whenever it recognizes an input. What we're going to do is we're going to select the rule and click the Edit Action button above. Set the schedule to the rule to real time. The when category is the trigger for the rule action. So when this event hits the database, I'm going to trigger alarm recording. So in the when field, we should see digital input changed state. Okay, so next, select the specific devices. In this case, it's going to be an input that will be monitored and trigger the rule action whenever the digital input changes state. The rule action is already configured and selected for the rule as shown below. but what we're going to do is go ahead and edit that action. Under where to record, we need to leave it on associated resources. We will later associate input 1 to camera 1. Leave the record action and the duration fields at their default values. You could have the duration on a time schedule, but we want the video and audio to record indefinitely until the state is restored or inactive on either your toggle switch or a card swipe. I'm going to go ahead and select the pre and post motion buffer. Last but not least, I want the toggle switch and the card reader both to trigger alarm recording instead of event recording. This is going to be displayed with a red bar. Okay, so now that we've modified the rule action to our liking, we're going to go ahead and save the rule action and also save our rule as well. So we're almost done, but all we need to do now is go in and associate camera 1 with input 1. Do this by selecting the input and clicking the edit action button above. Now expand your camera list and drag and drop the camera into the input's associated resources. Hit save, and these two resources are now associated with each other. But we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the camera. We do have one last component here. Because we're using a microphone, we will need to go in and enable audio for our analog camera 1. Now that the configuration for the rule and the rule action are complete, we can launch DigiOp Connect and test our configuration. So go ahead and log into DigiOp Connect. From there, we can expand our camera list and our data list. Remember that input 1 will be under recorder events. We happen to magically find a mythical analog camera lying around the office just for the purpose of this video. If you have an NVR and you're not using a capture board or analog cameras, then you can wire the trigger to any IP camera that has I/O capabilities as well. When you drag your desired camera into the live display, you should instantly hear audio in live mode. If not, make sure the channel is not muted. This can be configured in the Media tab. Let's go ahead and render out input 1 under Recorder Events, which will show you the total number of events for the day and the last hour. Furthermore, click the notepad icon to change from graph view to a transactional line item view. In addition to input 1, I'm also going to render out the built-in input active and input inactive queries, which look like magnifying glasses. Alright, so now you're ready to flip your toggle switch and or swipe your card. Once you have done that, you'll be able to search alarm recorded video with the pre and post motion buffer. I hope you found this video tutorial to be helpful. If you have any additional questions, our support team is ready and willing to assist you in whatever you need. Thanks for watching and have a great day.